Here we go. Got it. All right. So sorry, we had a couple tech issues, but we fixed it. I did nothing. I didn't fix it. I'd at least fix it. So great job. Thank you. And I think everyone is here and it's after 10 o'clock. So let's get started so we can be respectful of everyone's time, if that works for you.
Perfect. Yes.
All right, go ahead, introduce yourself and what you want to tell us, and then let me know and I'll pop up the slides as soon as you let me know.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Arelisa Ponte, Arelis, if you want to pronounce it in the easier way. I manage the Chestnut branch here at ESL. I have been with ESL for about 2.5 years, but have over 17 years of banking experience, and I am excited to share some banking basics with you today.
All right, someone else is coming in. All right, I'll pull up the slides now if that works for you.
Yes, perfect.
Here we go.
Perfect, thank you. So I will navigate a little bit to my screen. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few slides and I will go through the information. And if there are some questions, feel free. I believe you can enter it in the chat. And I'm sorry, you said you are not Hannah, but I didn't get your name. But Hannah will navigate through some of the questions if you have anything in between the session. And Hannah, we can move on. I'm sorry, it's not Hannah, so you have to tell me what your name was.
Oh, sorry, it's Devin. I was just fixing the
Devin.
volume for my own class.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so our agenda today, we're going to cover quite a few items. And so what that looks like is we will talk about all about ESL and just some facts, fun facts about ESL. We're going to talk about what is banking, what a credit union is specifically. A lot of times there's questions, the difference between a credit union and a bank. We will also cover the banking basics. So that includes your checking accounts, your savings accounts, debit card and usage, online banking and mobile banking. And then we'll also cover safety in banking. Okay, so a little bit about ESL. I know a lot of people might know a lot about ESL already. There are some fun facts that a lot of folks don't know about as well. So ESL was founded in 1920. We serve more than 400,000 people and businesses throughout the greater Rochester area. We also have more than 920 employees, and we have 23 branches, 100 ATMs across more than 40 locations. So we have our physical access to your branches, so you can come in and talk to us. We also have access outside of the branches. I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, but there's just a little bit of background on myself. Like I said, I'm Arelisa Ponte, branch manager here at the headquarters branch for ESL. And I have over 17 years of banking and financial services experience. About 3 years ago, I was a founding partner for Puerto Ricans United in the Distance. And a little bit about that, that was an organization, very grassroots, that was formed right after a series of devastating earthquakes in Puerto Rico. So we banded together and found resources and ways to help folks in the Rochester area. I am also a proud graduate of Edison Tech with the Rochester City School District. And in 2018, I participated in the United Way Latino Leadership Development Program, which is an amazing program. And I am currently enrolled at Cayuga College. So I had quite the gap there from 2003 when I graduated, but my best advice is that do it whenever you do it. It's going to take time, but it's okay if the time is going to pass anyways. Okay, so we will get into what is banking. So banking is essentially the act of protecting money for others. So our banking institutions like credit unions and banks will accept deposits and provide loans to customers. And so we talked about how we accept deposits, right? So customers deposit money into the credit union. The credit union holds those funds and protects the members' money. And then we use those deposits to make loans to customers. And then the customers pay interest on those loans. All right. So what is a credit union? Oftentimes, we get that question often. What is a credit union? Is it all about credit? Do I have to be part of a union? How is it different from a bank? So a credit union offers similar services as a bank. Actually, probably all the services. The main difference is that we are non-for-profit. So we're a non-for-profit institution that is owned by its members. So we are member-owned and member-driven. Credit unions serve a field of membership, and there has to be a certain criteria met in order to be a member of the credit union or bank with the credit union. So there are many different ways to qualify. And so for the most part, it can be based on where you work, where you live, where you go to school, or where you go to church. And then on the right side of the slide here, we just listed what ESL's field of membership is. So I'll share some of that with you. So specifically to ESL, you would be eligible for membership if you lived in these counties. So Genesee, Livingston, Monroe, Ontario, Orleans, Seneca, Steuben, Wayne, Wyoming, or Yates County. So those are the counties. So if you live in those counties, congratulations, you are eligible for membership. And then there's also other ways that you can qualify for membership. So if you have a family member or a member of your household who's already an ESL member, so if you didn't fit that county guidelines, that's an option. If you live, work, worship, or attend school in any of the boundaries of the city of Rochester. And then also there are a few lists that if you are part of these companies or were at some point, you may qualify. So if you were a retired employee or a member of certain organizations, then you would qualify, and the list is very long. So if you were interested in learning about that, you can visit esl.org and take a look at the qualifying companies. And then also if you are a member, employee, or a volunteer at the George Eastman House, you would be able to qualify for membership as well. And then the good thing is that once you become a member, your immediate family automatically becomes eligible for membership as well. All right, so what products and services does ESL offer? This is probably a question that we get every single day, multiple times a day, when someone comes in and it's their first account or first account in a long time, or they're switching from another institution. So the basics are ESL offers your checking accounts, savings, your debit cards, credit cards, all kinds of loans. So you can do a personal loan, home equity loan, an auto loan to purchase a vehicle. And then we have a unique product, which are short-term loans. We can talk a little bit about those later. We also offer mortgages to purchase a home. And we also do a lot for small businesses. So if you're starting a new business or even thinking about a new business, we can help with that. And we offer checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, and loans to support your business needs. All right, and so here we will break down the different products that we talked about. So just highlighting again, the checking, the savings, the debit, the online, and the mobile banking. And the next few slides, we will break those down a little bit more. Okay, so your checking account. What is a checking account? So it might be a bit of a dated practice. Less and less checks are out there these days. But a checking account is a deposit account held at a financial institution, so your credit union or your bank, and it allows withdrawals and deposits. So money in a checking account can be accessed using checks, your automated teller machines, which is your ATMs, and among other methods. Typically, you write a check out of an account to make the withdrawal. Okay, and then your savings account. At ESL and most other credit unions, you have to have a savings account as the membership account. So if you came in to open a checking account and you had nothing else with us, you'd walk out with a savings and a checking account. And so the savings accounts are interest-bearing deposit accounts held at your institution. And though these accounts typically pay a modest interest rate, their safety and reliability make them a great option for just holding cash until so that you can have it available for short-term needs. So you're saving your money now to be used later. Okay, so in that previous slide, I mentioned that savings accounts are interest-bearing. So you might ask yourself, what does that mean? So what that means is that you earn additional money for keeping funds in your savings account for an extended period of time. So if you, for example, put $500 in a savings account with an interest rate of 0.05% and do not add any more money, in 1 year, you will have $501. Now I know that is nothing to run home about. So that is not much, but it's money that you earned. So to put that into perspective, you can put that 500 in an envelope and let it sit and earn nothing for it. So at least you earned $1. And that's based on the current rates. That could change. Okay, and then now we have our debit card. Our debit card is probably one of the most, if not the most popular banking product because it gives you access to your cash when the banks are not open. So a debit card is a payment card that deducts money directly from your checking account when it is used. So it's just like writing a check. I mentioned for the checking account to withdraw, you would write a check payable to someone or a company to purchase something or pay a bill. With your debit card, you just swipe your card or provide your account information. These can also be called check cards or bank cards, not to be confused with a credit card. They can also be used to buy goods or services or to get cash from an ATM machine. You can also use it at a merchant. So for example, if you wanted $50 in cash and you were at a store, you could actually be at that store and purchase something small, purchase a bottle of water or something like that and get cash back. And that's another way to be able to get cash using your debit card. All right, and so the debit card to get cash, if you were using it at an ATM machine, you would be using a personal identification number, better known as your PIN. So the PIN number is a number that you select. So we don't give it to you, we don't assign it. You have that number. It's actually really important that you save that number because it does access your cash. So you would use that PIN number at ATMs to access cash and then also at the stores when you make purchases with cash back. So I got ahead of myself here, but this slide explains that same thing. So like I said before, in addition to paying with items with cash, you can also use your card at the ATMs and stores, and the funds will come directly out of your checking account. All right, online banking. I guess I said that debit cards were the most popular product. Online banking is very popular. It has become even more popular through the pandemic, as you can imagine. It's another form of being able to access your accounts, not physical cash, but able to view your accounts and do transactions. You can make transfers, you can pay bills. And so essentially you can manage your accounts from a computing device with any internet connection. So you can access your account utilizing your username and your password. And so then we have mobile banking. To give you just a little bit more background on the online banking is similar to the mobile banking. It is still accessing your account sort of in the same way, except you would be utilizing, if you're on a smartphone, maybe Safari or Chrome browser or something like that, to go to esl.org and access your account. With the mobile banking, you have all of the same features, perhaps even some more, but you would be downloading a mobile application. So with the mobile banking, you have the ability to view transactions, make transfers, pay bills, and manage the accounts. Just like with the online, you have to have access to the internet, and you would use the same username and password as you do for online banking. So they're very interchangeable, the differences that you'd be using an app with the mobile banking. All right, now on to safe banking. So I can't speak enough on this subject, and it's ever changing. So we'll go over some of these items and then we can talk a little bit more about it. So safe banking, you never want to let anyone, that you do not know make a transaction from your accounts. So because there's so much access outside of the bank, so the ATM, the online, the mobile, there are folks out there that just take advantage of these services that should be convenient, but also do bad things, right? So they might convince you to do a transaction for them or deposit. It could be a complete stranger. And so we like to help, we want to do for others, but providing access to your account in that way for someone that you don't know could really cause problems for you ultimately. So you never want to loan or give out your debit card information or your PIN. If you gave someone your card and gave them your PIN number to do a transaction, and maybe that one was a good one, but now they have your information, they may be able to go back later and deposit a bad check or deposit counterfeit cash. So really, it's almost like giving someone your car keys or giving someone your social security number. It's so important that you would really want to make sure that you secure it. You also never want to share your online or mobile banking login credentials. So again, just like your PIN number, that username and password is unique. You create it, you should safeguard it. And if it did get into the hands of the wrong person, they would have access to all of your accounts. The same way it's very convenient for you to have access, it will be very convenient for them to be able to log in and see your account information and perhaps even make changes that you won't be aware of. So it's really important that you just safeguard that information. Some important things to know are that ESL and other banking institutions will never ask you to verify your personal information, such as your account numbers, your card information, or your PIN numbers via text, email, or phone. So a very common thing is that folks get a text message and it says, please click here to verify your banking information. And it'll have any bank name on it, maybe a bank that you don't even associate with. And there's just so many scams out there to try and get people to click and then provide access and perhaps, download things onto your phone or your device, where ultimately you'll end up getting hacked. So if you get anything like that, if you receive a message that doesn't feel right, it fits that criteria and it feels suspicious and you have questions, just call your institution and let them know you received a message and you want to verify it. You will have nothing to lose in doing that, but everything to gain if you did end up being compromised. So if you did have that issue and you happen to have an ESL account, you can contact ESL at 336-1000. And like I said, just let them know I received this message and I want to know if it's legitimate. It's the best thing that you can do in a situation like that. And so that takes us to the end of those basics. I know I covered a lot of stuff. And so we have some time for some questions. So think about the things that we shared and let me know what questions you have. Don't be shy.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, hi. One student was wondering about banking apps. What specifically did you want? So it's for ESL. So what do you want? So he's just wondering basically how to go about using the banking app for ESL.
Yeah, so app is very user friendly. So if you have an account with ESL, whether you have access to it right away or not, it depends on whether you signed up for it when you opened your account. So do you already have the app and you're wondering how to navigate through it, or just getting started altogether?
It looks like he already has the app. Oh, so he's not actually signed up yet. He downloaded it but isn't logged in.
Oh,
Maybe I could send it to.
yeah, so if it's your first time logging in, you can call us and let us know that you are signing up. There is a link, I believe, depending on your device, it should be on the bottom left or right, where it says sign up, and it'll walk you through a new registration. So you can call us or go through that option. You can also chat one of our representatives using the mobile app.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Another student is wondering, to go in to open a new account, what kind of paperwork or documentation do they need?
Yeah, that's a good question. So to set up a new account, you would need your social security number, not the card, just know your social though. And then you would also need to have a valid identification. So if a student is under the age of 18, we have alternative ways to identify you. 18 and over, let's say, for example, you have a driver's license or a state ID. The address on that ID needs to match the address that you will be using to open the account. So if that happens to not match, then you will also need proof of address. And that can be a piece of mail that you received recently, a school report. So essentially any piece of mail that you receive that is dated within 30 days, we will use that to verify your address. And that's essentially it. So your ID, your social, things like your date of birth, your address, and things like that. We fill out a form for you, and then we would proceed and set up your account.
Thank you. Is there a starting amount of money they need to open an account?
Just $1. So just $1 for the savings account, and we get it started for you. And then the most common thing to do is to set up direct deposit. It's not required, but most members set up an account and set up some kind of direct deposit from their employer.
What about the deposit?
Sorry if I was talking. I thought I put it on mute. So a student asked what they need to be able to open a credit card.
Okay. Yeah, so for credit cards, you just have to be 18 or over. And then, for example, it all depends. If it's your first time trying to apply for a credit card, you can come see us depending on the circumstances. ESL does have the lowest limit of 500 on a credit card. And in some cases, we are able to approve a $500 credit card as a fresh start, a new opportunity with no credit out there at all. So at least 18 years old and 6 months of work experience is what you would need for that.
Does it need to be a current position or total work experience?
Total work experience, we do look at the amount of time at one employer. What would matter also would probably be, well, full disclosure, I'm not in underwriting, but based on my experience, it's nice to see the same kind of work. So let's say if you're in the restaurant business and worked at a few restaurants over the course of a year, then that would be considered. But it's okay if you're at that one specific employer for a month, let's say.
Okay.
Sorry.
Was the $1, they were wondering, the $1 open it for savings and checking?
Yes,
Mhm.
and it is their dollar. It's not like a fee or anything like that. It's just to open it.
Okay. Another student's wondering if you can be denied opening an account for any reason and what those reasons would be.
Yeah, so you can, and some members have been denied membership. We'll try and work through those reasons. So let me think. So a reason can be, for example, there's something called check systems. And that's CHEX systems, if anyone wanted to look it up. And check systems is sort of like, I call it the credit bureau of the banks, essentially. So if you did have an account at another institution and for whatever reason it was closed out, not on your own, but let's say, if, for example, the account was negative, so you owed some money or something happened with that account and it got closed out sort of in a negative way, then that may be reported to check systems and then check systems reports to the other banks. So I believe all institutions that utilize check systems in some way, whether it determines account eligibility or not, that's specific per institution. But if you are on check systems, that could prohibit you. It doesn't mean that it automatically will be. There's certain things that come into play. So the amount that might be owed at the other institution or the reason, or whether or not it was paid. Some amounts are very low and folks, life just happened as it happens to all of us. And they pay those items off and they come in with a receipt and we may be able to decide whether or not we're able to open the account. So that's one reason. Another reason might be if your addresses can't be verified. So if you have an ID and
At least you muted. I don't know what happened.
oh, am I good now?
Yeah, there you go.
I touched it. I shouldn't have touched it. So where was I? So yes, so if we are unable to verify the address that you're using with a form of mail, then we could deny an account that way as well. Another form is if for some reason you had an account with ESL specifically in the past and something happened. So if you had a loan and it went unpaid, or if you had an account that went bad, then those might be reasons where it'll come up and say, hey, something happened, let's take care of it first, and we'll work through those steps. And if that was the case, a piece of advice that I could give is if you're ever in that situation, whether it be with us or any institution, any debtor, creditor, talk to them, work with them, ask those questions, let them know what's going on to try and get ahead of the issue before you end up getting charged off.
A student had a question about the cost of having a checking account. Is there a cost for a checking account?
So that's the great part. ESL does really well in keeping products that work for everyone. So we do have our checking and savings accounts that have no fees. In general, so if, for example, you overdrew the account, so you use the debit card and there wasn't quite enough to cover it, we do have fees for that. It is a really low fee of $5 in comparison to many other institutions where it might be $30 or more. So we try to keep that reasonable. But again, if something happens, we ask our members to talk to us and we'll work through issues.
I'm not sure what you can see on your screen, but Rebecca is just explaining it to her student, like what you were saying. And there might be a follow-up. That's why we're sitting here quietly and waiting for a second.
No problem. I love it. I'm glad they have questions.
So we have a couple students that are newly in the US, and so they're looking at how do they build their credit. Do you have recommendations for how people with work experience but who are new here are able to build credit for their future?
Yes, of course. Great question. So for those members, which we have lots of them as well. It all depends if you have a social security number established. And if you do, great, then we will treat that the same way as we would treat an 18-year-old that came in with no credit or a 20-some-odd-year-old that is continuing or establishing credit. And so I mentioned earlier a couple different products, and one of them was a short-term loan. So that product is quite unique to ESL because it is exactly what it says it is. It's a short-term loan. So it's a loan that many people take out when they're trying to establish credit or to fulfill an immediate need that they have. So the short-term loan is a 6-month loan, and it doesn't have all the perks that a regular personal loan would have because it is a quick loan. Many members are approved, without having to meet income guidelines or debt to income ratios as well. So with the short-term loan, it's either 500 or 1,000 that someone can get approved for. So no more than that. So as you can see, being a smaller amount, it could help in a crunch, in a short-term need or an immediate need. It's quite easy to get approved as long as you're in good standing with us and have some kind of income. So we don't, like I said, for a personal loan, we would look at everything on your credit report and see if you qualify. Personal loan carries a lower interest rate. You can also do it for a longer period of time. The short-term loan, it's 6 months, 1,000 or 500. You can only have one at a time, and they're typically approved as long as you're in good standing with us. So someone who has nothing at all, they could go that route and get a short-term loan. And you do have to have a credit score though. So I don't know exactly what that credit score is. And if I did, I could not tell you. So you do need to have a credit score. So we also have our secured credit cards. So the way the secured credit card works is you deposit funds. So it could be $300, it could be $500, it could be up to 1,000. And we take those funds and put them in a savings account, a dedicated savings account that you can see. So if you look at your online banking or mobile app, you'll see that account. It's called a secured credit card savings account. The funds aren't available to you, but we hold them and you do earn interest on those deposits. And then in exchange, you will get a credit card with that same limit. So if you deposit 500, for example, let's say into the secured savings, then you will have a $500 credit limit on your credit card. And that does report to the credit reports and the credit bureaus. So it's a credit card that was given to you based on being in good standing with us, having some kind of income, and then being able to secure it. So a lot of folks do that one for 6 months, for a year, as long as you maintain work history and make those payments on time. That's going to help you establish credit right away. It's going to help you establish a credit score. And once you have a credit score, then typically those folks who are very diligently trying to build credit will do the short-term loan shortly after. Because you also, if you're brand new to ESL, you have to be a member for at least 6 months in order to get the short-term loan. So kind of the trend, many members might come in and apply for the unsecured card, and some do get approved. If they don't, they go the secured route, and then they go the short-term loan route. And then ultimately within a year or so, no promises, of course, or guarantees, but typically after a year of doing well with those products, someone might be able to qualify for a larger personal loan and beyond.
Another student asked, sorry, they have lots of questions, so that's good.
I love it.
She asked, can you do investing through ESL?
Yes, so ESL actually has an entire team of experts that do a lot of life planning per se. So it's called ESL Investment Services, and they do investing, they do planning, estate planning, trust planning, long-term care planning. So all those different things. And so it's a subsidiary of ESL, the depository. So if we had a member that came in and wanted to talk about those things, then we would ask some questions to identify exactly what your need is, where the criteria fits, and then we set up a meeting with one of our wealth managers, which we have one right here in our office. And so we work really closely with them to be able to do that.
Is there a minimum amount to be able to invest?
Yep. So on the ESL Investment Services side, the minimum is $5,000. And ESL does take a very, what's the word I want to say? A very conservative and planned approach to those things. So I know in today's world, there are a lot of things like investment apps. There's like Robinhood and Acorn and things like that. And those are great if you want to kind of start learning. I always say be very careful if you've never dealt with it, because it is pretty risky. So what ESL does is it's a very planned approach. So once we have someone that's interested, we ask questions about your income. Some folks have been saving money for a long time. Some folks come across money through an inheritance or something like that. So we'll ask those questions just to kind of make sure that what we're offering to you or what that they're offering to you is the best fit for you. And it's a planned approach. So it's also a long-term investment. So if you're thinking of like day trading and moving money quickly, then ESL would not be the best option, but we would be happy to have those conversations just to make sure. But we would be looking at more of a long-term investment, which would be a minimum of 3 years.
I have a student who has an account with ESL and they're wondering what they should do if there's credit card fraud. So if they see charges coming up that they didn't do.
On their ESL credit card?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have noticed something like that on your card, I encourage everyone to check your statements regularly in your transactions, because it can happen, and then notify us as soon as you notice it. So if you don't look at it every day, that's okay, but you'll want to make sure that at least a couple times in your statement cycle, you look at it, because Visa does have certain guidelines. Off the top of my head, I don't have them, but I believe it's something like within 90 days of a statement cycle, that's what you have to be able to put in a claim. So I would just say monitor it regularly. And if you do have something on that you don't recognize, call us or do a chat through the online banking and mobile banking to get started on a claim. So the faster you let us know and start investigating it, the better it is. Each case is different. So there are times where we issue what's called provisional credit. So you might put in a claim, and whether it be on the debit card side or credit card side, again, all case by case, depending on what it is, we may issue credit. In other cases, we wait for the full investigation to go through, and that can take 30 days, sometimes more. So it's case by case, but definitely if you have a situation, contact us right away so that we can get started on it for you.
A student asked if you have retirement accounts, and if so, what is the minimum that you have to deposit for a retirement account?
Yes, we do. So we have within ESL, we have IRA accounts, which is your individual retirement accounts. And those are similar to if you work and you've heard of a 401k. They're sort of managed in the same way, except a 401k is employer sponsored. So you can only have that if you inherited it somehow or if you're currently working. But our IRA accounts are accounts that we can open in the branch. It's $25 to open an IRA with cash, or if you have an existing retirement account somewhere else that you wanted to bring over to ESL, we would fill out the paperwork to have it transferred directly to us. And then you would just need the dollar to open that account, and we would wait for the transfer to come in. But we do have a lot of options in-house as well. And our wealth management side, ESL Investment Services, does everything with retirement accounts as well. So we work hand in hand and have a lot of retirement account options. Rebecca's class is clapping.
Any last questions?
I have a student wondering about withdrawing money from an ATM. What are the usual fees to do that?
Yeah, so if you have an ESL card and you're withdrawing at an ESL ATM, there are no fees for that. Where the fees come into play are if you are using an ESL ATM but have a bank card from another institution, then you might incur a fee for that specific ATM. And then you might also incur a fee from your bank or that institution. So you want to make sure you know what those are. There are your ATM fees and then there are your bank fees. So oftentimes people go to what's called a foreign ATM, so an ATM that doesn't belong to your bank, and it warns you. It'll tell you, yes, we can do this withdrawal, but you might have a fee of anywhere between $2 and I've even seen as high as $5 at some institutions, not ESLs. So there are no fees per se if you're using your ESL card at an ESL ATM. Now, if you go to another bank ATM, ESL, I believe, gives you 5 non-ESL ATM transactions where you don't get charged a fee. And beyond that, don't quote me, but I believe it's $1.50. I can follow up on that for any non-ESL over the 5 free ones that you get. Now, keep in mind, though, that that bank or that company that owns that ATM might be charging you a fee as well. So it is encouraged to use your ESL card at an ESL ATM. And then another option, if you didn't have an ESL ATM nearby, is using your card at a store. So you could go into a store and buy a bottle of water for $1 or $2 and get cash back and pay $2 for your water versus paying anywhere between $2 and $5 for an ATM fee. Any other questions out there? Well, feel
This has
free.
been so great. Thank you so much. There's been
Yes,
like the most questions ever.
I love it. I love the questions. And, sometimes if we get off of this and there are more questions, write them down. I can share my email. You can certainly, send anything our way. We're here to help. And I find that sometimes we struggle, but really it's just for a lack of knowing, and we don't ask the questions because we don't know what questions to ask. So that is one thing that ESL, really our goal is to really help our community thrive and prosper. And you guys might hear and see about ESL on the news and the big things that they do. But all of that trickles down and has such a major impact down to things like this, educating and answering those questions. So if anything comes up, you think about something later on about the session, let us know. We'll certainly follow up. I'll share my contact information as well. And we have another session next Tuesday, correct? To follow up on a few more things. So I'm excited to answer whatever questions you have now or later.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. And we'll see you again next week.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
Bye. Have a good day,
Everyone.